afternoon. You're watching Market Fatafat on ET Now. The show will give you a wrap of all the big movers and shakers today in trade, be it responding to earnings or other news. Markets, meantime, are looking very, very sideways. We are banged at that 11,200 mark. The Index as well is just about gaining 0.2%. But really, the majority of the action is once again being seen in the mid and the small cap index. In fact, the small cap index continues its underperformance. It's down by more than 1% in trade. The mid cap index as well is down by 0.7%. Metals, PSU banks, media, these are the culprits that are capping the gains on the markets in trade. Today we have with us then to flag off individual movers on the technicals, Manav Chopra of Indiabulls Ventures and Ashish Kyal of Waves Strategy Advisors. Good afternoon to you, gentlemen. Soumya Sharma as well joins in. Okay, let's start with ICICI Bank. That's one piece, one stock that's managing to hold out into the green regardless of what's happening in the markets. Yesterday as well, it was that one stock that was providing some support to the Nifty Bank that caused that index to stay afloat, and today as well it seems to be doing just that, especially for the private banking index. The first quarter numbers is something that the street seems to be cheering about, and hence you have seen ICICI Bank continue to go higher, firmly staying above 430 rupees. Remember, brokerage reactions as well were pretty positive. Okay, LUPIN meantime, and Manav, the pharma index is certainly very resilient today in trade along with the IT space. Your take on the upmove seen in LUPIN?
At the current prices, LUPIN has seen a fresh breakout today on the intraday charts, and most importantly, after sideways correction, a breakout above a short-term and long-term averages both are confirming a short-term trend reversal, at least in the near-term perspective. And also the momentum indicators for LUPIN has turned positive after 3 weeks, which is hinting for some sort of a pullback rally, at least in the near-term. On the immediate basis, 750 is an important support, which could be a stop loss for also a long position. On the immediate basis, we expect an upside target of 820 to be achieved in next few weeks.
Okay, and of course the big news maker for today is Mr. V.G. Siddhartha and his company Coffee Day Enterprises, which has plummeted post that very disturbing news of Mr. V.G. Siddhartha going missing. And Soumya, of course, it's not surprising that the Coffee Day board members are now in a huddle.
Well, yes, and that's right. We are also learning that there is a board meeting that is to be held soon today itself after this news of V.G. Siddhartha missing came to the front. In fact, today on back of this news, we're seeing the stock plummeting losing close to about 10 to 20%. And in fact, that's not just it. In our interaction with various other dignitaries from the corporate world, we understand that everybody is very saddened and disheartened by the news that they're getting, how the stock is losing close to about 20% on back of this news.
Well, yeah, in fact, you just saw Subhash Chandra as well of Z react to the news, saying that he is shocked about, Mr. Siddhartha, and he is hoping and praying Mr. Siddhartha is safe, as is the rest of India Inc. as well. Okay, moving on, let's talk about more result reactions. Bank of India has delivered its first quarter numbers, and look at the way the stock has plummeted post the release. Profit has increased certainly very, very smartly from the corresponding quarter, but while a lot of these banking stocks and banking companies have been reporting an improvement, at least a little bit, in the asset quality, Bank of India has actually deteriorated. So gross NPA has risen from 15.8 to 16.5, and even net NPA from 5.61 to 5.79. Provision figure as well has increased a little from the previous quarter, and it's a sharp slump seen in BOI in trade. Speaking about BOI, Ashish, the Nifty PSU banking index is a big loser today in trade, causing the entire market as well to come under pressure. Your view here?
The overall trend for Nifty PSU bank has been negative. We have seen any kind of a pullback over the past few weeks has been sold into, so it's best to bet on the downside. I think the entire index can now move towards the level of 2643 on the downside, as long as you can see 2865 is intact on the upside.
Okay, clear-cut sell on Nifty PSU Bank for Ashish. Okay, Soumya, let's talk about Piramal Enterprises. We just saw the first quarter numbers. What are they looking like?
Well, on the profit line, definitely some amount of shining coming in at the fact that in Q1 FY19 we had a loss of over 70 crore, but this quarter we've seen a profit of over 450 crore rupees. In fact, on the revenue front also we saw the revenue gaining close to about 21% compared to the last year. Even pharma sales saw an uptick of around 10% on a YOY basis. Financial services, which happens to be the key constituent of this entire group, reflected a total income growth of over 31%. Well, that's as far as Piramal Enterprises. So, in whole, decent set of numbers, good set of numbers. The stocks also gaining close to about 4% on back of these numbers.
1860 for Piramal. And Manav, let's talk about another pack that's pretty resilient, and that's the IT space. Infy TCS have certainly been doing pretty well. In fact, TCS, even when the market is lackluster and in fact lost steam in the after 12 o'clock, TCS in fact picked up steam. So quite a reversal in trend, or rather quite an opposite trend. What do you make of this move?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we've seen the stock decline from its recent peak of 2300, and post that decline around 2050-2100, the stock has been consolidating near its long-term averages. And usually we have seen this in the past. The prices decline towards its long-term averages, forms a short-term base, and eventually sees a move on the upside. Also today on the intraday charts, TCS has witnessed a breakout today with above average volumes, which is further confirming that in the near term we had formed a short-term bottom, and eventually a strong momentum could take these prices higher. For a very short-term trading perspective, 2230, 2250 is an upside target for the stock, and one can still maintain a bound-ups approach. On the lower side, 2150 is an important support.
Okay, so Manav seems to be pretty bullish on TCS. VIP Industries has just come out with its first quarter numbers, and the stock certainly has spiked. We have the revenue, which is coming at 564 crores versus 518 crores. However, there has been a dip in the in the profitability. It's coming at 54.7 crores versus 94 crores. And do remember, VIP in the past few quarters as well has struggled a bit on the profitability front because of the increase in costs, and that is something that perhaps may have hit the profitability this time around as well. Nevertheless, stock has surged after the first quarter numbers, higher by a neat 4%. Ashish, let's talk about Maruti. Today the stock is attempting a bit of a bounce. The question of course arises on the sustainability, because mind you, it was in the red, but then it has picked up steam. Again, quite a reversal from what we saw in the market. At 5600, Ashish, you still are negative on Maruti?
Yes, absolutely, because the Maruti has not broken any kind of resistance on the upside, and any rally that we have witnessed over past so many weeks have been just short-lived. So it is better that one can bet on the downside, because any pullback is probably short-lived. As long as the resistance on the upside here 5762 remains intact, we can expect a move towards the level of 5315. There is an important Fibonacci support line. Keep a stop loss of 5762.
Okay, that's a sell call then on Ashish, on Maruti Bhagni from Ashish. Okay, so Amir, let's talk about Bharti Airtel. Today it's among the top nifty gainers, and the trigger is of course BOFA's very positive note.
Yes, and in fact they have upgraded the stock from a neutral to a buy stance. And not just this, the price target has also been hiked from 360 to 400 rupees per share. In fact, they believe that Airtel is well positioned to capitalize on any weaknesses at the Vodafone Idea. So given the fact that entire industry is consolidated with 2-3 players, and one's loss is definitely the other's gain. So that the fact that Voda's loss would be good in terms of for Airtel to monetize in financial aspects as well. So they believe that they're in a good position to also improve momentum in core cellular business. As a fact, they've upgraded the stock with a buy stance and a target price of 400 rupees per share.
Okay, very quickly moving on then, look at Shalby. That stock is surging, and how? Double-digit gain seen in the stock price, almost 14%. Okay, now 7.5% higher, came off of course from the day's high, but at one point it had gone above 100 rupees and in fact was gaining a good 14%. The trigger of course was the first quarter numbers, where we did see a nice 16% uptick in the revenue at 131 crore rupees, and on the profit front as well, from just putting in a figure of 3 crores in the corresponding quarter, this time Shalby's profits have come in at 23.6 crores. So certainly an impressive performance, and Shalby Hospitals is rightly reacting in trade. Manav, we are waiting by for HEROMOTO Corp's numbers. The sluggishness, however, in the stock continues today as well. Ahead of the numbers, anything that you're observing on the technicals?
Yes, in fact, if you see this chart on the weekly, monthly perspective, the stock has already witnessed a good amount of decline from its peak, and also taking the recent peak of 2900, the prices are already down by 8%. I think looking at the overall structure on the weekly perspective, the prices are in deep oversold levels. Even at the current levels, I don't see any fresh opportunity to initiate fresh shorts, but taking a confident bet maybe at this level for a pullback rally would be a good opportunity. If you look at the momentum oscillators are also hinting for a positive divergence. So keeping that picture in play, I think the immediate support would be at 2250 to 2300, which is an important cushion, and on the immediate basis we expect a short-term pullback rally towards the levels of 2450. So for a near term, I think it's important that one can maintain a confident bet and maintain a bullish stance into this stock.
Okay, HEROMOTO is declining 3.5%. Ashish, let's talk about another stock or rather sector that's really not supporting the market at all, and that's OMCs. IOC is now at 135 rupees. Any recommendation you have for our viewers here?
The IOC is actually broken down below the short-term support of 145 levels and has continued the downtrend. We have not yet seen any close above the previous day's high, which indicates that the trend remains negative. So it's best to be trading on the downside for the target levels of 129.80, and the stop loss can be maintained at 140.75.
Alright, that's IOC for you, and yes, unsurprisingly, Ashish as well is a bit circumspect. Soumya, of course, strides today. That stock is surging, and how? What is the result like?
Well, overall, I'd say the results are pretty much in line with the street expectations, but what actually is interesting is the fact that the PAT saw a threefold jump to nearly 25.4 crore rupees. Even on the operating front, the EBITDA was up by 53% on a YOY basis. Margins improved from 12.2 to 18%. It's certainly a good set of numbers as far as Strides is concerned. In fact, the margins were 130 basis points ahead of the expectations. So in overall, the company reported strong numbers, and particularly shining is the profit line.
Okay, certainly it's a result of the day. The stock is doing very well. And stock number 15, then Shriram City. First quarter numbers, and you are seeing some volatility in the stock reacting to that. NI has come in lower by 1%. Provision has declined compared to the corresponding quarter, but it has doubled from the previous quarter, and I think that is something that is once again noteworthy, because do remember, while many in the banking and NBFC space are reporting some ease when it comes to the provision they have to take in the quarter gone by, stocks like Shriram and even for that matter BOI are showing an increase, and hence I suppose that may be a reason why you are seeing the stock price of these stocks being battered out of shape. Well, we'll do one thing, we'll take a very quick break right here on the show. Do come right back for more movers and shakers. Fatafat on ET now. Let's continue with the countdown then, and BEL, that's another stock that's a big news maker of today, for the reason being that it is reacting very smartly to its first quarter results, and the numbers as well I don't think have anything much to complain about. You have a revenue degrowth that has come in. I suppose that's the only niggling factor, 1.7% gone. However, on the profitability front, they seem to have done very well. In fact, they have said that the profit after tax has come in at roughly 204 crore rupees. That's a decent uptick of almost about 14%. Not just that, in their press release as well, they have mentioned that the order book as on 1st July was 51,700 crores. Orders received during Q1 were at 1,985 crores, which were mostly from very niche segments like communication equipment, AMC for radars, and then there was even some export orders for equipment. So I suppose that is something that's keeping the stock active in trade. It's higher by 7%. And Soumya, the other big number of yesterday was Dr. Reddy's. How is the street looking at it today?
Well, talking about the numbers, pretty much as far as the margins are concerned, it was a miss on a both YOY and on a sequential basis, and that's what also reflecting on the falling stock prices. The higher income, however, aided and boosted the PAT, but definitely yes, the gross margins were a miss. As far as Credit Suisse is concerned, I believe they're still maintaining their underperformed stance with target price of 2,115 per share. They believe that Q1 was delayed, but Q1 was better than expected. But the reported EBITDA benefited from lower R&D, and this R&D remains a crucial factor in terms of pharma companies, given it gives a sense of what the coming months would be like. But at the same time, the street is really not happy with the margin miss figure.
Okay, 2.8% gone, and this is the outlier in the entire pharma index that's managing to go pretty high today in trade. And Manav, RBLBANK, what a decline seen not just today but for the last few sessions. I think in the last 2-3 sessions it's been net a 15% fall. What are you observing in the stock?
Yes, the prices are in a very sharp decline, and in fact the momentum indicator is also indicating weaknesses even at the current zone. So since the prices are already declined, if we talk about the last 3-4 months, it has declined more than 35-40% from its peak. So at the current juncture, I don't recommend that anybody should actually hold on, or one should look to buy this 49. But this bearish momentum could see further more legs on the lower side, and the next target for the stock on the lower side is at 380 levels, and even the momentum indicators are still bearish, so I don't sense any sort of a near-term respite. If any pullback rally, I think one should look to reduce their long positions and probably initiate their fresh positions once the confirmation of breakout is there.
All in all, Manav is not exactly bullish on the stock of RBLBANK, and that was his opinion on how the stock would move. Ashish, while the large cap IT names are doing well, stocks like Persistent, Cyient have been on a weak note. In fact, Persistent is now down almost 8%. What would you recommend traders do with this counter?
Yes, absolutely. So Persistent has even broken below its previous lows, which was seen in November, December of 2018, and it has broken it in a rush. There has been a very sharp decline that we can see below 520 levels, and I think the overall momentum will remain on the downside. Short-term pullback cannot be ruled out, but if there is a shorting opportunity, we can expect a move towards the level of around 469 and use 509 as a stop loss.
Okay, there you have it. That is the word then coming in on Persistent Systems. SpiceJet, take a look at that stock, and while Brent has made its way once again towards $64 ahead of the Fed outcome, you are seeing a nice uptick come by in SpiceJet, and the stock is as well moving pretty smartly. Now, CRISIL has revised the long-term rating from negative to positive as per Cogences, and that may be a reason why you are seeing a sharp spike as well come by in the counter. It's higher, okay, by 2.6%. Okay, I think let's move on to another stock, and that's Godrej Properties. Ashish, we are seeing a nice uptick come by today in Godrej Properties stock price. What is your recommendation here?
See, over past, if you observe the movement of Godrej Properties in 2019, it has managed to continue to form higher highs, higher lows, which indicates that the overall trend still remains positive over here from medium-term perspective. And short-term, it has found some support near the channel and is bouncing back from there. So I would recommend and prefer on the keeping the stock on the buy side, and one can initiate long positions, keeping a stop loss of 927 and expecting a target of 1,004.
Let's move on and talk about another stock, and that's Heidelberg Cement. Samya, we just had the first quarter numbers that were released. How does it look? Because you are seeing sharp volatility as well in the stock.
Well, talking about the profit line, we saw a good jump of over 54.6%. So definitely on the bottom line, it really reflects well as far as Heidelberg Cement is concerned. The profit stood at 79 crore rupees versus 51 crore in the previous year. On the revenues also, we saw a growth of over 9% to nearly 589.2%. Margins also improved from 22.1% to 26.8%. So definitely, as far as the overall numbers are concerned, it looks decent both on the profit line as well as the revenue. On the revenue front, margins also seen some amount of expansion. However, the stock clearly is not really on the street, is clearly not happy with the set of numbers, and the stock's losing close to about 6%.
Okay, that's Heidelberg Cement, and it was a sharp downtick that we saw in the stock post the numbers. It's at the day's low, 6% gone. Manav, meantime, even Apollo tires, in fact, the entire tire stocks are, all the tire stocks today are declining. They're at the 52-week low. At Apollo, what would you recommend here?
See, even at the current levels, the overall trend remains bearish. Apollo Tyres has also breached its important weekly support levels, and since then we have seen some sort of an underperformance continue. So this trend is likely to continue for next few weeks. In fact, the next important support for this stock is on the lower side, and we maintain a bearish stance. So we expect this stock to see another decline of 5-6%, and probably 130 to 140 would be a range where this stock could find some sort of a cushion. So till then, I think maintain a sell into this stock is what we're recommending to clients.
Okay, it's 0.8% gone for Apollo Tyres. Like I said, 52-week low. Another stock that's falling in trade is Tata Sponge, and this time around we are seeing the shares fall to the lowest level in 2.5 years. In fact, precisely speaking, the lowest since December 2016. This after the company posted a loss in the June quarter of 86 crores versus a profit a year ago of 46 crores. Higher finance costs, higher total expenses. In fact, the total expenses jumped fourfold to 828 crores because of the finance costs, raw material costs, employee expenses and others, and hence that is something that hurt the profitability big time. Stock price, like I said, down 3.5%. Ashish, Varun Beverages, while the rest of the market is a bit sluggish, Varun Beverages is doing pretty well. In fact, it's very close to its 52-week high, though of course ebbed off from the day's high. But what do you make of this move?
Yes, absolutely. The stock has been a strong outperformer and has been bucking the trend, moving on the upside. So I think it's best to buy the outperformers and probably short the underperformers. So looking at the Varun Beverages trend, I think one can trade long positions here, taking a stop loss of 630 and then expecting a target of 682 or probably higher from here on.
Alright, that's Varun Beverages for you, and Ashish's recommendation, he has a buy. Soumya, very quickly, Tech Mahindra, again, Q1 results, what are we expecting?
Well, the ET now poll sees a growth of over 0.7%, but at the same time, the revenue decline, there's going to be a revenue decline on the CC terms, 200 basis points in the margin, but that will lead to a decline on a sequential basis. In fact, due to seasonality, we expect this to be a weak quarter, and not just this, you also seeing the cross-currency headwinds of 60 basis points, and ahead of the results, we're also seeing the stock losing close to about 0.5%.
And it's one of the only big tier IT stocks, that's losing in trade, perhaps in anticipation of the numbers, but yeah, in CTCS, all of them are gaining. Only Techem is losing 0.5%, so that's interesting to note. Manav, Karnataka Bank today, big loser in trade. What do you make of the move?
Yes, in fact, looking at this chart, we have seen the prices also breached its the important weekly support of 90, and since then, the prices have plunged sharply. Also, looking at the charts on the daily basis, I sense that near term we could see some further declines towards the levels of 75. So, for a short-term perspective, looking at the overall oscillators which are still in a bearish mode, I sense that near term the prices could still decline towards the important support of 75, and so for the near term, we recommend a sell into the stock.
Okay, stock number 28, let's move on to that, and okay, let's talk about Muthoot Finance. This stock today is a big news maker, and Soumya, what's causing so much activity to come by in this stock?
Well, Mabina, yesterday we had some news relating to the company saying that it has directed its branches to stop disbursements outside Kerala region and move the available cash with them to the head office. Now, yesterday the company clarified on the exchanges saying that the gold prices have seen a huge spike in the last 2 months, and they're moderating their gold loan advances by reducing the maximum loan to value of gold prices as against the RBI norms to 75%. And in fact, these clarifications has somewhat helped calm the investor sentiments, and that's the reason we're seeing a good amount of uptick coming in from the yesterday's falling stock prices, and right now the stock's clearly gaining close to about 2.7%.
Okay, EID Parry, let's take a look at that. That too is a big mover in trade. This after the company delivered its first quarter numbers, and while there was a decline in the revenue of almost 7%, it's the EBITDA really that was a star performer. From 83 crores in the corresponding quarter, it's gone up almost, it's almost doubled to 187 crore rupees. So a great move seen over there. In fact, 2.3 times higher is what the EBITDA is, and hence obviously margins as well have expanded significantly. The loss figure as well on account of that has compressed, and how from 195 crores to just 28 crores, and you are seeing the stock price come off very, very sharply from the day's high. It was in fact gaining earlier, but now it's losing more than 8%. So that's EID Parry for you. And finally, Soumya, Z Entertainment, the deadline, the 31st July deadline is fast approaching. What is the latest report saying?
Well, definitely, all eyes are on as far as the stake sale and Z is concerned. Well, latest according to reports is Comcast-led group has made an offer to buy out Z promoters. And in fact, this consortium is led by US cable major Comcast and comprising Atairos, Blackstone, James Murdoch's Nupa Systems, which has submitted their binding offer late Monday to buy out Subhash Chandra's Z Entertainment. Well, that's the latest when it comes to Z Entertainment. However, the stock seems to be neutral in trade, losing close to about 0.2%.
Okay, well, there you have it. 30 stocks wrapped up for you in a course of 25 odd minutes. On that note, Manav as well as Ashish, thank you for joining in and sharing your technical strategies on individual stocks. And Soumya, thanks for sharing all those stocks in news. But before we let you go, folks, we have a very interesting challenge lined up for you on the Money Show. We often hear about money saving, money